Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the broadcast. My name is Justice Knight. Today, filling in for Lisa Haven. Can't thank you enough for being here. I don't know if you saw the newest headline, but Elon Musk just buried Trump. He buried a lot more people than that in this shocking new Twitter, let's call it an intel release. I'm going to read the thread for you piece by piece because you can't miss a detail of what just happened. Now, before we get started, if you haven't subscribed to Lisa yet, what are you waiting for? It's just a click below. Make sure your bell is checked so you're alerted to upcoming broadcasts. And also, Lisa will go ahead and put a link just above. Can't tell you how much it would mean to me if you subscribe to my channel. And also, Lisa wanted me to give a shout out to her sponsor. And that sponsor is NobleGoldInvestments.com. You've heard me talk about these guys before. And right now, a very special offer for every qualified IRA account. They're going to give you this 3.5-ounce silver coin. This is no joke. What an amazing gift. Again, this is an amazing gift. What an offer. Again, that's for every qualified IRA account. So get right now to NobleGoldInvestments.com. We want to thank them again for sponsoring this video, but now let's get on with the broadcast. Many of you may have seen the headlines, but do you know the full story? Elon Musk reveals what led to Twitter suppressing Hunter Biden's story in 2020, but that is just a fragment of what's happening in this story. Because Elon Musk either accidentally, mistakenly, or who knows, releases the unthinkable about Trump, something no one had hoped to see. Let's start here in the proverbial words of Elon Musk. Here we go. And it goes into a thread. A rather lengthy one, but one we got to cover every detail so you know what's going on. Matt Tabby is the one it came from. What you're about to read is the first installment in a series based upon thousands of internal documents obtained by sources at Twitter. The Twitter Files tells an incredible story from inside one of the world's largest and most influential social media platforms. No one could dispute that fact. It's a Frankenstein tale of a human-built mechanism grown out of control of its designer. Well, somebody else gets control of this design and influences this design rather quickly. Twitter, in its conception, was a brilliant tool for enabling instant mass communication, making a true real-time global conversation possible for the first time. In an early conception, Twitter more than lived up to its mission statement, giving people the power to create and share ideas and information instantly, without barriers. As time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters. Slowly, over time, Twitter staff and executives began to find more and more uses for these tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech, as well for a little, then more often, then constantly. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back, handled. And you could see there, from the Biden team, the tweets they wanted reviewed. Jared Kushner being one of those tweets. James Wood being another. Celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. We're going to go ahead and give you Section 230 protection, but then we're going to manipulate the tool against Section 230 protection. But nonetheless, that's a detail for another day. Both parties had access to these tools. And here it comes, and no one could be sure if this was accidental or intentional. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. A statement no one expected to see released. Everyone knew something was coming. Everyone more than likely assumed this was going to be pointed at the Biden administration. But both the Biden administration and the Trump White House. It's very difficult now if you're going to complain about suppression and people suppressing you, if you too are also putting through the request to suppress. That's going to be a major issue that will not be looked by easily by many, myself being one of those. The system wasn't balanced, and we knew it wouldn't be. We know Twitter was a one-sided partisan beast. It was based on context. Because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation, there were more channels, more ways to complain, open to the left, the Democrats, than it would be to the right, the Republicans. There was simply easier access, more people to call up and say, hey, do us a favor, suppress that information. It's kind of awkward and uncomfortable for us, and they're going to show you exact examples of that. Now, they go a lot deeper. They go all the way into open secrets, but I don't have to. You know that Twitter is primarily left-leaning, in great majority, only a slim percentage of Republican representation there, so I won't waste your time. You see it there again in numbers. Democrats, $165,969, Republicans, $451, 99.73% to 0.27%. We know who was more represented. The resulting slant in content moderation decisions is visible in the document you're about to read. However, it is also the assessment of multiple current and former high-level executives. Now the target becomes a lot tighter. Who was requesting these takedowns? What were they requesting takedowns of? The Twitter Files Part 1, How and Why Twitter blocked the Hunter Biden laptop story. On October 14, 2020, as you know, the New York Post published Biden's secret emails, an expose based on the contents of Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. Twitter took extraordinary steps to suppress the story, removing links and posting warnings that it may be unsafe. They even blocked its transmission via direct message, a tool hitherto reserved for extreme cases, i.e. child pornography. Always should be. Nobody's going to dispute that fact. White House spokesman Kayleigh McEnany was locked out of her account for tweeting about the story. You remember when that happened. Prompting a furious letter from Trump campaign staffers. Mike Hahn, I'll show you the letter in itself. Kayleigh McEnany, this was from Mike Hahn to Twitter, has been locked out of her account for simply talking about the New York Post story. All she did was cite the story, the first-hand reporting that had been reported by other outlets and not disputed by the Biden campaign. I need an answer immediately on when and how she will be unlocked. I also don't appreciate how nobody on the team called me regarding the news that she'll be censoring news-tight articles. Like I said, at least pretend to care for the next 20 days. That was the timeline of the outbound administration. This led Policy Executive Carol Strom to send out a polite, what the blank query. Several employees noted there was tension between the comms policy teams, who had a little less control over moderation, and the safety and trust team. Hey team, are you able to take a closer look at this? Her note returned the answer that the laptop story had been removed for violation of the company's hacked material policy. Per checking, the user was bounced by site integrity for violating our hacked material policy. Adding them here for further insight and guidance. Such a corporate PC answer, isn't it? Although several sources recalled hearing about a general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, there's no evidence that I've seen of any government involvement in the laptop story. In fact, that might have been the problem. The government not making sure to say that we have First Amendment rights. Actually, one in government did, and I was shocked when it came across that detail. We'll be there in just a second. The decision was made at the highest levels of the company, but without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, with former head of legal policy and trust Vijaya Gadde playing a key role within this storyline. They just freelanced it, is how one former employee characterized the decision. Hacking was the excuse, but within hours, pretty much everyone realized that's not what was going on. But no one had the guts to reverse it. I contest it had nothing to do with guts. It had a lack of interest to reverse it because of the information it contained and the validity that would have given the storyline in itself. You can see the confusion in the following lengthy exchange, which ends up between Gadde and former Trust and Safety Yoel Roth. Comms official Trenton Kennedy writes, I'm struggling to understand the policy basis for this as unsafe. You see the letter there. We'll face hard questions on this, and you should have, and you did, but nobody answered them, of course. And if we don't have some kind of solid reasoning for marking the link unsafe, it goes on. By this point, everyone knew this was blinked, said one former employee, but the response was essential to err on the side of, well, continuing to err to assure the story didn't get out. The policy basis is hacked material, says Roth. Though, as discussed, this is an emerging situation where the facts remain unclear. Given the severe risks here and the lessons of 2016, we're erring on the side of including a warning and preventing this content from being amplified. They're referring to Hillary Clinton, by the way. What is this warning that came up? Well, when you click the link, you'll see the generic unsafe URL message. Not ideal, but it's the only thing we have. Whatever we do in the comms, this will become a basis for Jack pre-hearing immediately. Let's make it clear we're proactively being cautious, interpreting this through the lens of a hacked material policy and allowing the link with a warning and significant reduction of spread, a shutdown of information. Of course it was. To Ian's point, we can truthfully claim that this is part of the policy. Can we? That was the question. As part of our approach to addressing potential hacked material, we are limiting visibility of related stories on Twitter while our investigation is ongoing. I guess now Twitter's become the FBI and CIA also. Boy, that statement can resonate, huh? I support the conclusion, this is from Jim Baker, that we need more facts to assess materials, to assess whether the materials were hacked. At this stage, however, it's reasonable for us to assume that they have been, and that caution is warranted. Of course it was. While there are others, opposite the hack story, indicating the computer was either abandoned and or the owner consented to allow the repair shop to access it, what turns out to be the truth. On Wednesday, October 14, 2020, Ro Khanna comes in. So I was a little shocked to read this. Generating huge backlash on the Hill. Freedom of speech, I think, is what he meant to type there. Happy to chat if you're up for it. Best, Ro. And they write back to Ro Khanna. Thank you for reaching out, and we appreciate the heads up. We put out a clarifying thread of tweets earlier this evening to explain our policy around the posting of private information and linking directly to hacked material. Isn't this an amazing? Everybody's in unison covering this one up. The press secretary's account was not permanently suspended. We requested that she delete the tweet containing materials that is in violation of our rules, and her account is restricted until she complies. I'd be happy to jump on a call. My team in D.C., Jessica and Lauren, are copied here and also available to discuss. Boy, how tight this web is woven, isn't it? So my hat's off again to Ro Khanna. He takes it a step further. He goes all the way up a good day. But this seems like a violation of the First Amendment principles, which I implicitly agree with. If there was a hack of classified information or other information that could expose a serious war crime, and let's say the New York Times was to publish it, the New York Times should have the right to do that. A journalist should not be held accountable for illegal actions of the source unless they actively aided the hack. That statement is accurate. So to restrict the distribution of the material, especially regarding a presidential candidate, seems not in the keeping of the principles of New York Times versus Sullivan. I say this, and I give him credit for this, as a total Biden partisan, and convinced he didn't do anything wrong, but the story now has become more about censorship than relatively innocuous emails, and it's becoming a bigger deal than it would have been. You messed up, Twitter. Now you've put everybody's focus on this. It also is now leading to serious efforts to curtail Section 230. Why would I give you protection if you're going to abuse that protection and stop the authors/publishers of the information? The 230 was designed to assure can publish. It's basically on me if I make a mistake, not on the platform. What gives the platform then the right to suppress when the government's already given them protection against that? That's why you continue to hear this topic come up and up. But in the heat of the presidential campaign, restricting dissemination of newspaper articles, even if the New York Post is far right, seems like it will invite more backlash than it will do good. Now, Ro Khanna should have taken a stronger position and demanded change, but he did not. No, he stood in the middle ground, and that's the problem with our politicians nowadays. So they go on, and as we get to the close, within a day, the head of public policy, Lauren Culbertson, received a ghastly letter, a report from Carl Sasbo of the research firm Net Choice, which had already polled 12 members of Congress, 9 Republicans, 3 Democrats, from the House Judiciary to Representative Judy Chu's office. They warned Twitter that a bloodbath awaits in upcoming Hill hearings, with members saying it's a tipping point. Complaining tech has grown so big that they can't even regulate themselves. So government may need to intervene. Scary statement in itself, isn't it? A terrifying statement. When asked how bad the situation was, one staffer said, it's tech's access Hollywood moment, and it has no Hillary to hide behind. Others were more blunt. Tech is screwed, and rightfully so. But it truly wasn't. Because even to today, nothing has happened about it. And that's the issue. I don't know how much more glaring of an example you need. Oh, wait, let me give you one. The file continues. The First Amendment isn't absolute. That statement is so wrong in so many ways. And I know people will pull out those very quick examples of a few things that shouldn't be allowed to be said, but be careful. That has been a slippery slope, and the government has taken full advantage of it from day one. The letter contains chilling passages relaying Democrat lawmakers' attitudes. They want more moderation. And as for the Bill of Rights, it's not absolute. If the Bill of Rights is not absolute, then we don't have our nation as it stands. We are not the United States of America. Anybody in an elected office should never make those statements. But of course they do. And as we close, the Democrats, meanwhile, complain the companies are inept. They let conservatives muddy the waters and make the Biden campaign look corrupt, even though Biden is innocent. They linked this to Hillary Clinton's email scandal. She did nothing wrong, but because the press wouldn't let the story go, it became a scandal far out of proportion. In their mind, social media is doing the same thing. It just doesn't moderate enough harmful content. This is actually what they think. So when it does, like it did yesterday, it becomes a story. If the companies moderated more, conservatives wouldn't even think to use social media for disinformation. In other words, we don't want conservatives using social media. We don't want their voices out at all. We don't want their opinions. We want no dissent, as I've declared for you for years and years and years. The Democrats were in agreement. Social media needs to moderate more because they're corrupting democracy, the word I can't stand, and making all truth relative. And making all truth relative. These statements are beyond bombshell. But they were made, documented, and now released. Elon Musk let these out. He decimated Trump in the meantime. Decimated him. Should never have seen that in there. But there's a bigger story than any one candidate. The story is that statement. The First Amendment isn't absolute, and that was their belief. And an amazing subplot of the Twitter Hunter Biden laptop affair was how much was done without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, and how long it took for the situation to get unblanked, as one employee put it, even after Dorsey jumped in. Because, my friends, there was no interest in getting the story unblanked. It was inconvenient. It went against one-sided partisan politics, and you didn't deserve to hear it because they don't believe that you can make up your own mind. You're not smart enough. You're incapable. So the all-knowing government and the all-knowing big tech will do it for you. And this, in black and white, something needs to change with big tech. And it has to change yesterday. And it has to change with our elected representatives. They need to believe in the Constitution of the United States and stand by its principles. If not, this nation will fall. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.